Good morning and welcome to What Shape Are You In? Okay, so I'm pumped up and ready to go here Saturday morning. I come down to my Facebook and I'm empty, have nothing. Get some coffee, start making a few comments, and an idea is born, and now I'm excited about it and I want to share it to you. Now, we've been talking about what is the shape you're in. And I've been looking at and sharing with you the shape of our culture. Because the culture shapes us, just like a fishbowl shapes the water a fish is in. It's the shape of water. What's the shape of your water? If you don't know what the shape is, you have no way of getting rid of the pain the shape gives you. Because when a shape is unconscious, you are habitual to the shape and you don't know it. And the shape makes you behave in ways that is painful because you're constrained, you see. We human beings want to be free. We want to be free from the shape. We want to be free from the containment. We want to be free from the fence, from the wall, from the boundary, from the mother, from the dictator, from the government. We want to be free. I want to be free of what? We want to be free from the shape. But when the shape's unconscious, everything we do to be free creates the shape. Everything that we want to do to escape the pain creates the pain. That's the spiritual paradox. And that's Zen, but that's another story. So what is the shape of Trump? Now, don't take this as he hates Trump. No, I want to understand us, and Trump is us. So in order to understand us and our shape, we really need to understand Trump as a shaper, as a shapeshifter. He's a shape. His followers are a shape. A shape doesn't stand alone. I mean, you can't take a fish out of a fishbowl and say, he'll die. You can't take a fish out of a pond or the ocean. The ocean is the fish swimming. In other words, the shape of the fish is the ocean. So if you want to understand the fish, you have to understand the ocean. If you want to understand the frog, you have to understand the pond. You can't take the frog out and dissect him and understand the frog. Here's a leg and an organ and all that, but what's the frog? I don't know. You have to understand the pond. The pond is a frog jumping. So Trump is America jumping. If you want to understand Trump, you have to understand America. You have to understand our shape. So now this is a new way of looking at Trump. So don't get all head up and bothered and say, he just hates Trump. No, I love Trump because he gives me understanding. He forces me to understand. He forces me to go bigger, to get a bigger boat, a bigger understanding, because little understanding doesn't work. You can't understand Trump by the past. You can't understand Trump by normal political definitions. That's why he's so perplexing, because he doesn't fit. We need a bigger boat. So the bigger boat now, I'm going to go right to the south. And I'm going to go to Blackstone, where I live. And there's three religions in Blackstone. Blackstone is an old southern town. I mean, it's a new southern town, but it has roots all the way back to the colonial past. And it has roots in the slavery and the social structures and the shape of the South. The shape of the South. Now, the shape of the South was black and white. Two races segregated, kept apart. One up, one down. Value by your body. If you're white, you have more value than black. So body was segregated, not minds, not behavior, not preferences, not what you like, not your religion. It was your body. Now this creates a tension because there's only one human body, one only human family. We're an organism, just like ants are an organism. You know, when you shape, when you take the one and cut it into two, they'll want to get back together again and restore unity. So if you keep them apart, there's a wound. Like the Berlin Wall. Berlin was wounded, and there was a yearning to restore unity. And Reagan says, take down that wall, Mr. Gorbachev. Reunite the people. So we're looking at a culture where the people were divided into two separate halves, each depending on the other for survival because they all had to eat. So how did they come up with a strategy to temporarily heal, to live with the wound? That's the point. You can't live with a wound. When you got the pain of separation, you have to come up with some way, some strategy, some game, some ritual, some mythology, some mythos that ritually heals the wound so you can keep forward, and when the ritual runs out of energy, you do it again. That's what a ritual is. It's a temporary solution to a wound that cannot be healed. And it cannot be healed unless you see the shape that creates the wound. If you don't see the shape, you have to create rituals, ritual healings for temporary relief. You see? So I want you to get that bigger picture here. So let's take a look at the South. I don't know if my clock got going or not. Let's take a look at the South with this division and the religions. Now, right here in Blackstone, there's still the three religions, I'll say. Now, this is just me talking now. Don't get all upset. You got your mainstream religions in town with the big historic Baptist church and the Presbyterian and the Methodist church and the Episcopal. These are brick, solid buildings. You go there and you hear the sermon and you sit in the seats like in a lecture, and you don't really jump up and down. You listen, and my mother-in-law used to be a Southern Baptist, and she would come home from the church and she would go over the points of the sermon and decide whether the minister covered his points or not and made a good logical talk, or not. You see, so it's all head. You see, so it's all kind of a head religion. And in the communion is very serious. You get up and go down and eat the host, and you come back and sit down, but there's no jumping around. There's no hallelujahs. And then you go outside of town, you got the black churches and you got the Pentecostal or evangelical churches. And there the body's free. It's not a head trip, it's an emotional trip. And then in the white churches, you got the tent revival. Because even the white Pentecostal get they run out of juice, so they got to bring in this evangelical, this inspired preacher. He's like a traveling, charismatic juicer. He can come in and through his charisma and his spontaneity and his energy can get the people revved up again. And they're revved up and juiced up, and they can go back to the church, and their minister is good, but he's not going to be as good as that tent revival. So they come back, and then gradually the healing power wanes, and you need to juice up again. You need to get healed again. So this is all about ritual healing. And because it's a ritual, because you have to keep doing it over and over, you go to church every Sunday. That's a ritual. If you do something once, it's spontaneous. If you hear that, that's the doorbell. Now, what am I going to do now? Somebody's at the door. Anyway, my wife just went to the door. Okay. So what we're looking at here is that we have a ritual healing through the churches. And the Pentecostal and the black churches were emotional body healing and bonding. And Somebody's at the door. See how this is distracting me? So the point is that the tent revival was a healing process of the racial divide. So both the black churches, which would be the black churches would come off the black side here, and the white Pentecostal would come off this side here, and they would be segregated, but they would release the tension that is created by the separation of the society. So when you have a society that is wounded, the healing process is a temporary release of the tension created by the wound. A wound is like, a chasm. A wound is like pulling apart, you see. A wound separates, and the greater the gap, the greater the pain. So you got this centripetal and centrifugal forces here. You want to heal and close the wound, but the shape of your society increases the wound. So now you get this healing wounding. And so we create rituals in which we can temporarily close the wound. Well, this is what is the way I see it, is these revival meetings. So what is the shape of Trump? But it looks like a Southern tent revival. And he's and if you look at what's going on in there, it looks hallelujah, amen, rolling on the floors, healing. There is a joy in healing. That's when you go to a dance and you're joyous because you're healing. The music is healing you. So healing is joyous. So whenever you have a tent revival or a rally and there's joy there, it's the joy of temporary healing. But because it's a ritual, it's not permanently healing. So we're trying to get a look at the shape of Trump then is the same shape that you have of a Pentecostal or evangelical holy roller tent revival in the South. White people are only there. You don't get, it's not full of black people. It's the white revival that gets the tribe, you see, it gets your group healed, but it doesn't hold because when the tent revival is over, the wound comes back, the division comes back, and you got to go back and get another hit. So I'm looking at Trump revivals, the shape of Trump, as a reincarnation or a reenactment of a Southern gospel tent revival that heals the white people from the pain of racism temporarily. Temporarily, you see. Because the shape creates the racism, and then the rituals create the temporary healing caused by the shape. But the water always goes back to the shape of the bowl. So as long as the shape of the bowl is unconscious, the water is going back into that shape, the shape of water. Remember the movie? And that creates the rituals of healing that never heal, but only temporarily. So how do you get out of that? Well, if you attack if you attack a Pentecostal church revival, you release hornets. So if you attack Trump and the shape of Trump, you release the hornets. You see, because that the ants will eat you up if you stick your hand into an ant colony. So that doesn't remove the ants, you see. What removes the ants, what removes the shape of the water, is the change in society as a larger shape that is not divided. And so this larger shape that is not wounded, that incorporates the black and the white, the tension, the opposites, that incorporates both sides of the wound into one body, the shape changes and the ritual changes. So there will be no need for a church revival, no need for a tent revival, if the tensions created by your shape gradually dissolve. So time heals. Thanks for dropping in.